Now, I always try to comment on who is putting the production out. I'm not just grabbing material. This is called the Swiderian Human Hybrids, Watchers, Giants, and True Foundations of Civilization. This is on Zohar. And this is Andrew Collins, and he's got his perspective on this, and I don't agree with it. He's talking about giants 7 feet tall and all this stuff, very, very little. I mean, to me, those aren't even amoebas. The stuff I have blows everybody out of the water, and it's so over the top that even the people that are fighting against mainstream refuse to engage with me because they know that my stuff is just, it seems just impossible, but it's not impossible, and and as far as I'm concerned, it's all 100% true, or not 100%, but pretty damn worth looking back into is all these ancient texts. And that's exactly what I do. Okay, Roger once again. Fair use. I use copyrighted material from everybody, but I use it in a way that's called transformative. Because I take everybody else's work and I say, no, I have a different opinion of that, and then I show evidence. So I can use copyrighted material done for a limited and transformative purpose, such as to comment on, criticize, any of this copyrighted work. It's just, there's no obligation that I have, no infringement, considered not an infringement. And there's nothing they can say about it. I don't have to get permission, I don't have to do anything. So I am going to be referring to a lot of people's work, but it's all fair use, and it's all because I don't agree with it. Well, I can tell you what, I am hated on every single side by every single researcher, because I have problems with everybody. This guy here got the Nobel Prize for sequencing the gene sequence of this Neanderthal. He says pinky bone sent to Max Planck extracted the genome and mapped it, published in 2010, and he called for a new population now called Denisovians. Well, I have no toes. I have so much stuff this is just nothing compared to the stuff I have. Absolutely nothing. This is the kind of stuff I got. This is a 3-foot long fingertip. That is the fingernail. That's the little pad that bumps up to the next bone, and I knocked this piece off here, and it still has fingerprints on it, so I can get down inside and get DNA, and I did have it DNA tested. It is mitochondrial human DNA. Alright, you see that there? That is from that gigantic fingertip. These are the fingerprint ridges, just like the fingerprints in your hand. My thumb is the width of one fingerprint ridge. I went down inside and took DNA, extracted it, and had it tested. It is human. Here's a lung I had DNA tested. It came back human. The same thing as the giant fingertip. And I have a giant hand here, too, that also came back human DNA. Now, I'm going to try to explain to you why I am so hated by everybody. The reason I got problems with everybody is because I did the work. I took out samples from these gigantic body parts that are here on my property. I sent off these samples that I extracted. I had them DNA tested, and it was expensive. And I was the first one in the world to have DNA tests done on these ancient humans. And all 3 of them came back as being human DNA, and some of them came back with excellent quality DNA, because I drilled right down inside and got blood from deep down inside. See this here? Excellent quality DNA was obtained in the 36-inch, a huge fingertip, and and the lung. The big hand that I had, it was okay too, but it wasn't as dense. And here is from the mitochondrial blast, where they blasted into the DNA database of any creature that ever existed, and it came back Homo sapien mitochondrial cytochrome B and D loop region. That means it's human. Now, this sent the academics right off the cliff, and so they won't talk to me. They hate me because I have upended their world in so many ways. And the people that are doing the other research on the other end that are trying to show giants and stuff, they've got 7, 8, 10 feet tall giants, and they've got long-headed people and all this. I have all kinds of different body styles, different feet, well, let's take a quick look. All right, don't forget, I'm talking about 3,500 years ago, not 60,000, 100,000, millions of years ago. That's when all of these things became solid because of this hot saltwater flood. It boiled the salts, phosphorus, and all that out of these creatures. All the feldspar turned to aluminum silicates and encased the body tissues, which turned into basalts. They all have a flat side. All right, they all have a flat side because they died in the flood laying like that. All of the other feet and all of the other body parts, and I have literally hundreds of them. So do all my people that have been following me. We've got the feet. We've got all in different levels of degradation, so we can look inside and actually see the tendon straps and the springs. There's springs in this foot that are not in a human being. Okay, here's the issue. People that don't like space and don't like the planets and say there's no space, no rockets, no space station there, and Earth is flat and all that kind of crazy stuff. They hate me because I do a lot of stuff in space, and I'm very deep into that and deep into the emissions from the sun and the asteroids and meteorites and all that. I study all that stuff. So they hate me for that because they just assault me every day about that stuff. So I block a lot of them. Now, the ones that are the academics that study all that stuff, they hate me because I talk about gods and about all this other crazy stuff. That's the mud fossils and everything, which I have 100% support of that, and even sea monsters and all that. Now, I know that the people that want to be at Mud Fossil University, they love that stuff. You see here, this one here, 14,000 views. The rest of them, I get 500 views, 200 views, 300 views. I'm getting no output whatsoever from this channel. So what I have to do is I'm probably going to keep this channel, but it's going to be devoted to the stuff that academics think is insane, because I can't do both on the same channel. It doesn't work. Everybody hates me from one side and they hate me from the other side. I end up in nowhere land. So that's going to happen. Things are going to change pretty drastic, pretty quick. All right, you see this right here? This is my hero, is Velikovsky. I even wrote a book about him because he was destroyed by academia, same as me. In the spring of 1940, Velikovsky's study of the biblical accounts of the oceans would have raised to the boiling point of water. How the hell would that happen? All right, what happened to Velikovsky was he went back and read all the ancient texts, and they corresponded to what was actually on the ground. Listen to this.
Impelled me to complete Ages in Chaos first. I shall employ some of the historical material from the first chapters of Ages in Chaos. There, I use it for the purpose of synchronizing events in the histories of the countries around the Eastern Mediterranean. Here, I shall use it to show that the same events took place all around the world.
Just so you understand, he went to every library, basically, every museum, every place where they stored these ancient texts, and matched up these events that happened all over the world. What happened was Venus came out of Jupiter, and these are the words that he wrote. It was the feared god Jupiter gave birth to the fiery comet Venus. And for 7 days it approached Earth and almost impacted Earth, boiled all the waters, in the rivers and the lakes and so forth, and probably maybe even the oceans. Then, as it almost impacted Earth's atmosphere, it forced the hydrogens and oxygens in the air to recombine into water. And that's what caused the flood. That, and from up above, from below too, yes, because the caverns of the earth opened up, everything did. But it was hot, boiling water coming out of the sky. That was hot, boiling water. And that's what leached all of these salts and phosphorus and all these things out of these mud fossil creatures. And I have them. I have scads of them, and so do you. Everybody's reporting in that they have exactly the same stuff. And that's all there is. And even the planets and the moons and everything. You take a look at Iapetus, I can show you that is a tendon enthesis. Now, like I said, I'm going to get really deep into the ancient history, and I'm going to show all the evidence that supports what Immanuel Velikovsky researched, and I also did. Now, I had extra information than Velikovsky because of Google Earth and because I really did some serious research on this, and everything that I could determine, he said, was fairly accurate. There were some things I can't totally agree with, but he went back and found the time frames, the dates, and it's only 3,500 years ago. And every single thing that I have shown, gigantic creatures were above the surface of the earth. They weren't buried. All right, you understand that? That makes a big difference. Now, listen to what Velikovsky says here.
And to explain the nature of these events. The Red World. In the middle of the second millennium before the present era, the Earth underwent one of the greatest catastrophes in its history. A celestial body that only shortly before had become a member of the solar system, a new comet, came very close to the Earth.
All right, I'm going to just, you got to come up and listen to this. It's quite long. I mean, and I wrote a book about him, about worlds in collision. I called it Minds in Collision. And that was 7, 8 years ago. You know, I just wrote it so that he doesn't get forgotten, because they destroyed him. And even now, if you go and talk to your professors and say, what about Immanuel Velikovsky's work? They'll laugh at you. They'll fail you for asking that question. Okay, so I am going to have another channel to separate these things out. If you don't like the real deep science, don't come to the new channel. Please don't subscribe. Don't come up there and try to attack me for anything that I say about space or any of that stuff. And if you hate the mud fossil stuff and you like the science stuff, you know, subscribe and pay attention up there, because I'm going to go so deep you won't believe it. I'm going to go way deeper than anybody is getting into that stuff in mainstream. We're getting into muons and dipole. I'm changing the whole structure of the atomic theory. It's all dipoles. Quantum entanglement, all of this, I can show all of those things. And then I can show all the things I'm talking about in the mud fossils. So if you hate me for one or hate me for the other, I don't care. Stay on that side, stay on this side, but don't assault me for my opinions backed by my evidence. If you have an opinion that has evidence, yes, you can assault me. I don't care about that. But if you just come up and say the guy's an idiot, who would ever listen to somebody like this? He thinks there's space. He thinks there's planets. That kind of stuff. I'm done with all that stuff, okay? I love you all, but it's really damaged my research. And I should have known better than to try to do everything on one channel. So there's going to be some serious changes. Plus, I got 2 strikes on this channel. It could go any second. Every time I wake up and it's still here, I'm amazed. Okay, you should come up. I'm going to put a link to this, Immanuel Velikovsky's World in Collision. It's very deep and it's very long. But it's, in my mind, it's correct.
This would cause friction between the various liquid or semi-fluid layers, creating heat. On the outermost periphery, the solid layers would be torn apart, causing mountains and even continents to fall or rise. Mountains fell, and others rose from level ground. The earth with its oceans and continents became heated. The sea boiled in many places.
All right, I'm going to just leave it at this, but here's the problem. Velikovsky's accounts were all very accurate as far as I'm concerned. However, he didn't know about these giants and dragons were literally the foundation of the earth. The earth is built on a corpse and a body. They're all dead bodies of gigantic creatures. And I believe Earth at one time was Gaia and a creature on its own. So this is this is so deep. But I have so much evidence that I have already shown and will show that it cannot be denied and just dismissed. If you do, well, that's up to you. But I'm not going to do that. But I don't want to be assaulted anymore for either way, showing stuff that's insane on this side or showing stuff that's insane on that side. And both people have the same mental attitude. Like the academics, they just refuse to see what's right in front of their faces because they just don't like it. And the same thing with the people that think the earth is flat and there is no space and all that. They won't look at anything that I show in the scientific realm because they just don't like that stuff. So I have to separate it. This is what's going to be done. All right, thank you. I love you all.